So I'm super glad to have you. I miss you. Like, I I was telling my mom the other day how funny I think it is that we are so close to each other, and every time I think we're gonna see each other, like one of us can't attend whatever the event is.
I know. I feel like the universe is nudging us like out of the state from the few opportunities that we have. When I'm like, okay, great, I'm going to be in LA, or you're going to be in Orange County or Temecula, and then we're not together. But
That's
that
so.
just means there's a really good, great opportunity that's coming up that we will
Mm.
finally be in person, unless you're not a real person. But
I'm AI generated. Nobody
there
really met me
we
before.
go.
So, are you from Orange County? Are you from California?
I'm from Well, I was born in Connecticut, and I lived there for a whole 3 weeks before I came to California. So I'm obviously very Connecticut at heart.
I can hear it in
Uh,
the yeah.
yeah. So we moved actually to Southern California, like Ventura area, if you're familiar with that. I was
Mhm.
there until about first grade, and then we moved to Northern California. So I spent most of my childhood up in, it's between Sacramento and Tahoe, a really small town of, I think the population when I lived there, the sign said 350, if that, people, not thousand, like 350.
Wow,
No extra zeros on that one. Yeah, we didn't have a stoplight. It was very small.
no stoplights.
Yeah, it was crazy. Now, if I go up there, which is rare, I'm only up there every few years or so.
Mhm.
But when I do go back up, if I go to like where I grew up, there is now one stoplight in the town, like right near where my old house is, and I run it every time because it's just that instinct. Like it was never there for my whole childhood, so it's kind of bad. But
How many
yeah,
people are there now? 400?
possibly it might be a little bigger than that. I'm not sure. I know a lot of those towns up in Northern California have been growing.
Ooh.
But yeah, so I was there through high school, and then I came down to Orange County for college and was there for, probably gonna date myself here, but I think I was in Orange County for like 15 to 20 years, and then moved into came out here to Temecula area about 5 years ago.
Oh, so you're in Temecula.
Yeah,
Or
well,
like,
technically, I'm just north of Temecula. It's like 15 minutes south of me, but most people haven't heard. I'm in Murrieta, which is less commonly known. So I say Temecula because it's literally the two of them and they're bordered right there. So,
okay.
yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking more of like a little out past Anaheim area when you said like Orange County. So,
Oh,
like, why
yeah.
weren't you at the Temecula meetup,
I
Christy?
This is what I'm saying. Like I should have been there. And of course, the one time there's a meetup in Temecula, I was in Arizona.
That's so funny. I have to make another
Yeah.
meetup or something.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So, are you looking to, or did you ever have plans to like leave California? Because, you know, I see a lot of different people leaving and then people staying, but I don't hear a lot of people like moving over here, at least in the real estate field.
Yeah. We've considered it over the years and we've talked about leaving before just because of the prices in California. My husband grew up and he's always been in California also. So, I mean, there's a lot that we love about California, but it is expensive and the taxes and everything. But his company, he also owns his own company and it's based in Southern California. So, I think we're going to be California at heart for quite a while and continue to we have deep roots here and they'll continue. So,
Same. What kind of business does he have?
it's an old family business. They've had it for 40, maybe 50 years now. It was like his grandfather started it. They're manufacturers representatives for industrial fans and environmental equipment. So it's things like, you know, blowers and exhaust fans and something like
Um,
LAX or the kind of clients that they have and sewage companies. So very exciting stuff.
yeah, definitely. Wow.
Necessary, very necessary.
What am I doing in this field? I really got to hit him up, see if he has any job openings.
Yes.
Okay, so because I had initially, so for the past like year, I've been saying I'm going to move. At first, it was I'm going to North Carolina, and then it changed to okay, maybe I should go to Texas, and then now it's maybe I should go to Vegas, and I don't know. It's just it's so difficult. And then it's like, oh, do I want to be near Pace and be in Arizona? Do I want to go to Puerto Rico now?
Oh, I just got back from Puerto Rico a couple months ago.
What? Oh, from the
Yeah.
hotel convention, right?
Yeah, I have a hotel project going on down there right now. So that was the first time I've been to Puerto Rico. I really enjoyed it.
How was that whole experience? How did you even get into a hotel? Hotel? What?
It was just being, in the right spot at the right time with the right people, relationships that I've developed over the last year, and an opportunity arose, and yeah, we teamed up and we're doing it. So
Wow.
yeah.
What kind of or how big is the hotel? Is it in Puerto Rico?
It's in Puerto Rico, yeah. We're still really early, so we're not sharing too much yet. It's early development design because we'll probably take down the existing structure. So it's a lot of talk right now about how many keys, what works with parking, figuring out a lot of that stuff before we really kind of move forward with the design. So it's a lot of coordination right now with the architect and environmental reports, things like that.
Mm. If I can ask, then what role do you play in that?
I am I would say kind of a project management role is where I've landed. I have a really strong team. We have super strong operators that are down there. So
Mhm.
there's sort of the boots on the ground and the hospitality piece. Because for me and a lot of my other partners, we're coming in with multifamily experience, which there's some overlap between the two kinds of real estate, but yeah, for me, it's kind of that leadership and managing the project, keeping everything organized, making sure we're hitting timelines and follow up and sort of structuring everything.
Wow. So are you still looking to do stuff in the multifamily field, or are you like focused on hotels now?
Definitely still look at, I mean, everything I'm familiar with and most comfortable with is multifamily. So still absolutely invested in multifamily and interested in multifamily. This just happened to be an opportunity that made sense. I am now more open, and it wasn't something I anticipated or I was going after, was to get into the hospitality space. But I do have an open mind where, as long as I'm paired with operators who are strong and have a good track record in a different area, to me, at the end of the day, the most important thing is the people. So if you're working with someone that you trust, has good values, you align on a partnership level, and they also have the track record, and together you can come with your different resources and skills, then those are opportunities that I'm open to, even though I do like to kind of stay specialized and within my box, as much as possible, just to kind of maximize that. But
Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh, okay. Here's a question for you. So I don't have a W-2. I just kind of jumped into real estate, and so far whatever I've been doing has been doing okay. It's keeping me afloat. Um, I've talked or I've spoken with a couple other people that are kind of around my age, and they are starting like they are have more mentors than I do.
mhm,
I think I have partners, but I don't have like a mentor yet. So that's something that I'm calling out to the universe for.
mhm,
But I've started to like wonder, like, okay, well, if I want to make money, at least like cash flow and stuff, would I have to really focus more on like wholesaling then, or something else? Like, because I want to focus on multifamily, but I know that that's not like cash flow right now. So then I have to
mhm,
probably have something else. Or would that mean that I have to get like another job? And a lot of the people that were my age and not as experienced in the field yet, but they were saying that they're probably going to get a job, or that they've been hearing that you want to get a W-2 so that you
mhm.
have your, yeah, and then you go into real estate as a side thing. What do you, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a big question, because I think It varies based on the person. I will say, I think coming straight out of being a teenager or straight out of college and going straight into starting your own business is amazing. It's also really challenging, which I'm sure you've experienced. It's challenging at any age to start your own business if it's something you've never done before, right?
Yeah.
So I will say there's a few advantages if you were to go and do a W-2. Because one, especially at the state that you're at now, you could choose something that you can learn the skills you know you're going to need to build the future that you want. And you can get paid for it without the pressure of like, I need to bring the income in through the door and figure this out, right? There is so much pressure when you own your own business, right? Like it's stressful. Eventually you're like, this is going to give me freedom or it gives me the lifestyle that I want, but it takes a while to get there. Or at least that's my experience, right? It's freeing, but also you constantly have this feeling of like, I need to be working, or, oh no, am I going to hit this, goal, or I need to be bringing in revenue because I have these bills. And when you're working a W-2, a lot of that gets relieved. So I know especially in real estate, a W-2 gets demonized, might be a strong word, but there's a lot of this like, oh, no W-2, like we're anti-W-2. We just want to build our own future. And I can see that. Okay. I agree with that sentiment, but I also think there's a strong case for having a W-2 because the amount it'll take off the stress. You have a steady stream of income. It makes it easier to then leverage, especially at a young age, to be able to leverage debt, right? So if you have a W-2 income, it's easier to qualify for whether it's credit or, a loan, something like that. You can more easily do that when you're self-employed, it is a pain every time you're going through and you're trying to get like traditional leverage. So that's one thing. The other big advantage that I think people don't pay as much attention to, and I'm a little biased in this because I come from a background of having work experience, like working for a different employer, W-2, before moving into kind of self-employment, is that you get to see how an established business runs. So instead of trying to create all of these systems and processes and build a business without ever having really been in one and been a worker within to see what has already been done ahead of you, because some of these companies have been around for, decades. Yeah. So they have good systems in place, or you learn from other people, or you can see a lot of examples of how people are doing it. And in the real estate space, there's also that, and there's people that are sharing what they're doing, but you also have a lot of people that are figuring it out by themselves. And although some of the things sort of work, there's much more efficient ways to do things. So I've had the advantage of, when I started my business, it was still really hard because I had to come up with all these systems and processes and how am I going to structure everything. But I also had experience I could leverage and lean on and think back on like, okay, how was this sort of a process done in the jobs that I've had before? And you can sort of copy that a little bit and template it, if that makes sense. So I don't know, for you, it's probably only you can answer that question if it makes sense, but that would be my, I guess, older wisdom of the pros and cons of both. And I think there's a place for both.
Those are really, really good points too. Oh man, I was about to say something. My brain it's like, I used to be so focused, and now I think because I've been doing all this, I just think of a bunch of things all at once. So dang.
That's okay.
Oh yes, I remember. Yeah, I worked for Keekly for a little bit, and even the little that I worked with them, I loved how they would have like morning meetings, and so that's what I've been implementing in like my so that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Man, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that input. So to get a W-2, do you need a college degree?
Not necessarily. It just depends on the position or what it is that you want to get into. So it really just depends. Some companies, they care about that college degree. Others don't. A lot of it, I think, has to do with the position, like the entry level of where you're entering, how much they are sticking to that. I will say in this market, ever since COVID, labor is a lot harder to come by.
Mhm.
And I don't know because I haven't gone out and applied for jobs, but I have to imagine that maybe for some jobs, there's added flexibility that maybe wasn't available a few years ago. So even if you were to meet criteria, a lot of other criteria that they're looking for, but that was one piece you didn't have, but you have started your own business and you show these other skills,
Mhm.
they might be willing to look past it. I can know, I've hired plenty of people over the years, and even though we'll have a perfect wish list, you don't always hire people. You can't always be as strict as you want to be with that. That's sort of like, here's the perfect person, and
Mhm.
it's really hard to find the right match for that. So sometimes you're giving up one or two of those, but gaining something else. So
Mm. Do you okay. So I had a friend that was going, I think, to school for business administration. And I knew him in high school, and we touched base again earlier this year. And he was, I don't know if he was a broker or if he was just working with Marcus and Millichap. But I was like, what the heck? How did you go into that? So that was just something that I was like wondering, like, do you need
yeah.
it? Yeah.
And I don't know for that specifically, but that would be a good example of the type of job or company that if you were to go in, even if you're not doing the ideal role, what could you learn from that that you can then leverage in a couple, 2, 3 years or whenever that you exit that. And then maybe you're going back to square one of, okay, now I want to build my business and be independent and self-employed again. What are the skills that you want? What are the advantages that you're looking for? Right? Because like the whole goal would be to collect relationships, resources, skills,
Mhm.
so that over time you're accomplishing your goals. So it's really about evaluating, okay, where do I want to be in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years? What do I want my life to look like?
Mhm.
How might I go about accomplishing that? And what will I need in order to get to each of those positions or to each of those milestones along the way, right?
Yeah. So do you have a W-2 right now?
I have a complicated relationship with a W-2, is what I'll say. So technically I'm a W-2, but it's of my own S corp. And my S corp is fully employed. I'm an independent contractor of my family business.
Okay.
Um, so it could look, in some ways, I'm just sort of a W-2 fully employed person through that company. But the way it's structured, it's really like I have full flexibility and I still have to run my business and I have all of my tax returns, expenses, accounting, everything that I need to do. I've just chosen to fully focus on the one client, which is my family business, rather than having a bunch of clients that I'm dealing with. So
Oh my gosh,
it's
that's
kind of
cool.
weird, but
Yeah. So is the family business different from your husband's business?
yes. Yeah. So what I do and I've been doing over the last decade is I work with this company was founded by my father, and it's a consulting firm and we work with multifamily developers. So I'm involved in a variety of different ways through development. And over the last, gosh, it's probably been 7 years now, I took sort of created an additional income stream for that company where in consulting, a lot of the times it ends up being very like whoever's doing the consulting, it's very hands-on. It's much harder to build. You can do it, but it's harder to build systems and things and really have like products and scale if
Mhm.
you're in consulting. It's very time intensive.
Mm.
So I helped create an additional income stream, and that's my primary focus now, and that's for visualization. So we create renderings and virtual tours and videos for developers so that whether they're early in development and they're trying to figure out what might work on the site, or they're coming at making design decisions, wanting to just kind of conceptualize what it looks like before they're going down the road with the architect, or maybe they're partway down the way with the architect. They'll work with us just to see. It's really hard to see on a 2D set of plans
Yeah.
what that actually is going to look like, even if you're really good at reading those, right? So they might work with someone like us so that they have a visual that feels more 3D. So what we do is create sort of that photo representation of it for them. And then it's easier for them to say like, oh my gosh, like I thought it in my head, I was visualizing it this way, but now that I'm seeing it, that is not what I wanted. Let's make adjustments. And then we also work with them as far down. They might already be through all their approvals. They might already be in the ground, like under construction, and they want to prep everything so they can start pre-leasing units. So a lot of the times they'll come to us to create those images. So if you've ever gone apartment shopping or something and you're looking at the interiors of the units and the amenity spaces, but it's not built yet, that's what we do.
Oh,
Is create those. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so one of my questions that I had was like, how did you even get into the real estate field? Because I know that you're this, like the W-2 is in multifamily, but it's okay, it's your dad's business. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and actually straight out of college, I went straight into real estate. So I spent 5 years working for a syndication firm.
What?
So it was,
oh my God.
yeah, it was for low-income housing. We focused just on tax credits. And I was in the acquisitions department for that time for 5 years. So I did underwriting, due diligence review, negotiated partnership agreements. And yeah, so I got that was my entry point into real estate, and also the world of syndication, and also the super niche world of low-income housing tax credits and affordable housing and all of those programs.
Dang. That's interesting. You tend to hear people that built their way up there. Oh, okay. So, I mean, oh my gosh, most of my questions have already been answered now through like, okay, because another one was like, like, how did you get to where you are now? And it's like, okay, well, the syndication, your dad, and actually, okay, yeah. How did you get to where you are now when you've been working with, I guess, in the real estate field for a while now? How did you get into Vina and Puerto Rico and having hotels now?
Yeah. So it's funny because about, I would say maybe a little over a year ago now, I was talking to my husband. Actually, yeah, it was probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. And so when we were in college, we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all of we went down this whole path of trying to learn all about financial literacy. Like we just felt like we were not at all equipped to go into the real world and have jobs once we were graduating college. We're like, why has no one taught us what we're supposed to do? We felt overwhelmed, which is why I think a lot of the things like you've started to become involved with educating teens and younger kids about finances and financial literacy and all these things, just as ISA is doing as well.
Yeah.
I wish we had something like that, but we did have Rich Dad Poor Dad, fortunately. So that was a mindset we had from very early on, and we implemented a lot of things where as soon as we started work, even though we felt like we were making barely any money, barely making by, we would save a huge chunk and put it into a 401k. We were saving, we were doing all of the things that we at the time were really good practices to kind of start learning how to navigate that. And then fast forward a year and a half ago, I'm looking at him and I'm realizing we have always talked about investing in real estate and we still haven't done it. And I was like, I think it's one of those things that as you move through life and through parenthood and all, there's always something coming up. So I think we were both waiting until something slowed down or the time was right. I don't know what we were waiting for. Because it wasn't just going to fall in our laps. Like we had to go pursue it if that's what we wanted. So it was sort of just this realization that like, oh my gosh, we haven't actually pursued a lot of the things we've talked about pursuing. Yeah. What are we doing? So I went down, the rabbit hole of the traditional probably path that most people go down, right? It's like you start listening to Bigger Pockets is usually a common entry point as you're getting into real estate investing. And through Bigger Pockets, I think I heard an interview with Pace Morby and became super interested in him. So I started consuming his content. Then last December, he did an elephant challenge on multifamily. And so I was very interested in that. So I was like, okay, great. Like all of the background I've had so far at the time, I didn't quite know that I'd go into multifamily. just because I didn't think I could use it as an entry point, even though I had 15 years experience in multifamily. I just hadn't made that mindset or that mental leap of, oh, this is what I should be leveraging. Like I thought, no, you buy rental homes or you do short-term rental, this is the way you get into it. And eventually you might move into multifamily, which is kind of funny and ironic considering I worked at a syndication firm. We mostly worked with institutional banks as part of the program. So it was like, the Nationwides and the Wells Fargos and stuff. But we did have one fund usually a year that was like for retail investors. But they also were very, I think, very, very wealthy. And so I just hadn't made that connection yet. But anyhow, so Elephant Challenge, on that particular one, he brought Vina on because at the time he was partnering with her to close out. They had just picked up some assets, I think, in North Carolina. So he was introducing her, and that's where a lot of people, she got some exposure there because she had just started a free Facebook group in a community. So the rest was kind of history. I joined that community, and because multifamily was my focus, that's where I poured my energy. I found my tribe, all of my friends over this last year, and I've traveled and built these amazing relationships with them, and it sort of has grown from that.
Oh wow, I love that. One day I'll be a part of the tribe that you'll meet in person.
You're part of my tribe.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I remember hearing about the Elephant Challenge, but I wasn't really into it. But around that time, or around this time last year, that's when I started watching a lot of like the $1 Million Upside stuff, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the Elephant Challenge was blowing up with multifamily.
Yeah.
It's really loud outside. I'm so sorry. Okay, well that's super interesting. How do you balance? So, okay, the way that I'm picturing kind of your work life is like I'm just going to call it the W-2 because it's easier for me to categorize at that. So you have like the W-2, and then you have this investing, and then you have mom personal life. Is that like the three major aspects?
Yes.
So how has it been managing all three of those then?
It's challenging, honestly. You can't balance them equally at all times. And so it's hard. My first priority is sort of my W-2 because I'm responsible for that whole leg of the business and making sure the revenue's coming in, we're hitting our goals, managing that team. So that I already feel a lot of pressure because even though it's technically within, my father's company, it's my baby, my responsibility within it. So it's sort of my business within it. Mm-hmm. And then on top of it, what I was planning to do in not be spending a ton of time, just kind of, buying some single family homes or something, is starting my real estate journey has morphed into something completely different. So originally I thought, I'll spend 5 or 7 hours, maybe 10 hours a week, kind of pursuing multifamily and investing in addition to my full W-2. So when waking up, I get up at 4:45 every morning to get some work in and some things done before the kids are up and before I start kind of what my normal, W-2 is. And then spending some extra time on evenings, weekends. But I would say that has easily grown significantly over the last year. I average probably closer to 15 extra hours a week on, everything else with real estate investing. So it's hard, but I also love it. And through it, I think I have found so much purpose and renewed direction in my life and kind of came back in touch with who I've always been. And like as a mom, over time, sometimes it's easy to, especially when you have young kids, to lose track of yourself a little bit. Because you just get so consumed in the day-to-day and pouring so much of yourself into them, and all of your mental, emotional, and like physical needs just like pour into these little babies. So you do that enough and you kind of start to forget like who you are and like what you're going after, moving after, just because the days feel so busy. So that was part of the reason too last year that I was like, okay, let's reassess. There's some freed up time because I have 2 boys. So one's almost 8 and then one is almost 3.5. So last year was the first time they finally both were in school because my 3-year-old, when he turned 2, we put him into like a preschool program. So especially come that fall, it was the first time, okay, we got, a solid 6 hours where they're both out of the house and they're at school. And it had been years since that had happened. So it got easier with that. And then I took on this big, what ended up being a much bigger project. But yeah, it's also very rewarding. And I'm sure with most parents, it's like I experience mom guilt, because there are days or weeks where I'm like, man, I was so busy with all of this stuff. I feel like the quantity of time that I was spending or even my energy of being fully present each day was diminished compared to how I want to show up for them. But then I remind myself, most of the time, what they do get from me is I actually am very present with them and I do prioritize them. And so you can't be 100% all of the time. And I also think I give them the gift of being able to see that they can do other things and watch me pursue to be more than, although it's important to be their mom, like I'm also a person and an independent, woman who has other things, and every person should be more than just who they are as a relationship to someone else, right? Like we all have our limited time on this planet, and we all need to also take care of ourselves as individuals. And that's been hard for me as a mom to get that and to do it and put it into practice. So I think that's where I struggle the most, but.
That's something I hadn't really thought about, the independent from your relationship. Cause I think my mom wasn't like a stay-at-home mom or anything. She was, I lived with her, so she was working and doing her own thing. So I guess it's kind of like, oh, I know that she does other stuff. And then she started bringing me into it forcibly because she would like sell at swap meets and such. And so she would make me work with her and such. So I kind of already always had an idea of like what she would do. But yeah, I can imagine that it's a little weird if you're sorry, I'm thinking of like movies or like television shows and even like real life people that I know where the mom, now that her kids have more time, or maybe they're in high school now, and I've only known of like mothers, in cases of mothers, they actually start going into more things, and it's like just a little shift.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, that's cool. And so is it, when you were talking about like, go feeling like you were like the person that you kind of wanted to be and you're going towards the goals that you like really wanted, what are those goals? Is it for like financial freedom? Is it to build something to leave for your kids? Is it, I know a lot of people that are in at least the multifamily field have been able to be or have more philanthropic endeavors. Like what are those for you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of each of those for me. So I think because me and my husband both have our own businesses, the cash flow fluctuates. And so we live what I call like distribution to distribution, or at least we used to. I've sort of been able to, over the last couple of years, structure it so that our cash flow is more stable. But it's a lot of pressure when you live that way because we have the way it works tax wise and a lot of other ways. It's better to have a lower salary, usually one that's reasonable, but lower. And then you take additional income in your distributions because that's taxed at a lower rate than your salary is. And then you have your salary, you have added taxes of like payroll and all of these things. So you need to balance those two if you're, depending on the kind of structure that you are, right? It's not true. That's not a blanket statement for like every sort of legal entity, but for some. So because
I'm not a CPA kind of banner.
I'm not a CPA. I'm none of the things. Do not listen to me. I'm not a doctor. But yeah, so it it can be a lot of pressure, because if you go through 1 or 2 quarterly distributions and they're lower, or something happens to the industry, you have something like COVID, and my husband and I are both in industries, like for me, construction, and for him, manufacturing. Those are old dinosaur sort of industries
Yeah.
that are also lag behind. So during COVID, we didn't have immediate, like I was the busiest I had ever been. He also was fine during COVID, but like 12, 18 months later, our businesses all of a sudden like slowed to a halt, because it just takes a while for all of the factors to trickle down. Like with construction, we're seeing some of that stuff now, right? It's like all the interest rate hikes that have happened, they didn't have an immediate effect on
Mhm.
slowing construction and development, but now they are, because here we are a year later, and now financing is getting so much tighter, and it just, everything is slower. And so for us, part of investing in multifamily, or investing in general, is to relieve the stress of like, these are our income sources. What happens if these aren't as strong? If these go away, something happens to one of our businesses, we have that extra passive income coming in.
Mhm.
And we also want to build, similar to most people, we want to build financial freedom. I want to be able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, and live the life, like not be constrained by something as simple as money, right? Which money is a big thing to a lot of people, but it's really, at the end of the day, it's a concept and it's a tool.
Mhm.
So treating it that way and trying to structure life accordingly is definitely a goal for my kids. I don't necessarily want to leave them with this big legacy, but
Yep.
I do want them to be able to move through their life knowing that there's at least a safety net, that they can be, their bare minimum needs can be met, and there's something to draw on, but that they're still responsible for building, and they get the lessons that come with that, and get to grow and build a life for themselves, and maybe do it in a totally different way than, me and my husband have been doing and will do. So yeah, it's just accomplishing all of those things. And for me, another big goal is, I don't know yet exactly in what way, but I know I've always wanted to leave this earth or my community better than I found it. So I try to do that in small ways all of the time, just with my actions and the small acts I can do. But I never feel like it's enough. I would like to make a much bigger, long lasting impact. I just haven't quite connected with what that true purpose is, and what exactly that looks like for me to be able to accomplish. But that's definitely one of my big goals as well.
Oh wow. Oh, that hit me. That hit me deep. Um,
Mhm.
I have been fortunate with the whole things that I'm doing with teens, where I think that I finally kind of feel some sort of goal that I have. Because growing up, I never like, I want to be this when I grow up, or anything like that. It was very go with the flow, and it's always kind of been that. And then even like going into real estate, I just happened upon it and it interested me, so I went into it. Um, but yeah, and my goal, I guess, was to learn as much as I can so that I can help my parents in their goals. So mine, my mom's and my dad's are very like youth and family oriented. And I'm like, well, I love those. I think those are great. So why don't I just help them? And then now that I'm actually able to like manage some projects myself and be in direct communication with the youth and whatever I'm doing, now I'm like, oh my God, this is so nice. Like this is wow. I think I'm totally cool. If this was like my goal to just be a part of this, I could totally do this. This is, if I can, I guess, get to the point where it's like financial freedom or whatever personal goal, anything with the youth and all of that, I think that's where I would land. It's very exciting to feel that.
I love that. And that is really cool. I've really connected with a lot of what you were saying, because I spent so much of my youth feeling the same way. I was like, I don't know what I want, even through high school and then college. The big question is like, what do you want to do with your life? What career do you want to go into? What do you want to study in college? And I never felt like I had this path in front of me, and I didn't have a clear vision of where I was going. And I sort of just accepted, and it all worked out well. they kind of just accepted what came along. I was like, okay, this one seems good. And this opportunity is like even getting into real estate right out of college. I didn't choose that. It was connections that I had. They found out that I had graduated. I was looking for a job, and they had an opening, and they thought I would be a good fit. So that's what I did. So it's like each of these. I feel like I've moved through much of my life in a similar way, and I'm grateful because I've enjoyed my journey, my path. But I can definitely empathize with that feeling of feeling like, okay, I just don't, I'm not sure, and kind of moving along. So I think it's cool that you're connecting with something, especially as young as you are, and you have that in front of you.
I feel very fortunate. Whatever endeavors I have, I will always invite you to join so that we can learn together what resonates best.
I love that.
I love you, Christy. You're amazing.
You are amazing.
Thank you. So I feel like a lot of people, and I'm not, okay, sorry. Let me just ask the question. So my question is, what keeps you like going when it comes to the different things that you're juggling, that everybody juggles? But is it just like, okay, well, I want the whole thing like for my kids, or is it like your kids and you're like, I want to leave some sort of impact to better the world?
Yeah, I think for me, in the short term, like what's fueled me in this year in the moments that are hard or I'm exhausted and I think, what am I doing? A lot of what's fueling me is the passion of finding myself again. So this year has been, might sound a little cheesy, and especially for someone who's young like you, but I came across something probably 2 years ago on social media, and it was a mother that was sharing it, and she said there's this thing with flamingos where a mother flamingo will, when it has a baby, a lot of them will turn gray, because what happens is they give so much of themselves to their babies. They're literally like through the feeding and everything else, their nutrition, that they lose the pink in their feathers. So they'll turn gray. And then as the babies get bigger and they wean off, they need the mom less. She takes back in and can like care for herself again and prioritize herself again. And she turns pink again. So that really hit me when I heard it a couple of years ago. And so I've told a lot of people this year that like 2023 for me has been the year of getting my pink back, because I can like, it's just kind of that feeling of like, I love my children and my family, and I've given so much to them over the last, my oldest is now 8, and I've given so much to that I lost sight of anything outside, especially when you work from home and sort of what like my life has been, which I have a beautiful life and I'm so grateful for it. But when you're in sort of your small bubble of just your home, you lose sight of kind of what you wanted all along. And a couple of years ago, my stepmom suffered for a very long time, fought with cancer and lupus and a lot of other things. So she had a very tough journey. But she did pass away from cancer a couple of years ago, and I was there with her towards the end, and that last year was hard. And one of the things that came out of that experience was I just realized how precious life is, and that it can be taken from us, and like how lucky I am to be healthy and to be able to choose what I want to do and to move my body and to be able to pursue my path. So I think that experience, as hard as it was and as painful as it was to go through that, also gave me this beautiful gift of perspective that I really hadn't gained yet in my life. And that fueled me a lot as well, to wake me up and think, oh my gosh, if this was me tomorrow, like what would my regrets be, and what would I look back, and what would I have wanted to have seen in my life? And am I living the life that I would have wanted to have seen? The answer was no. And so that kind of that is what I go back to the most, I think, more than anything, is for myself. If I fast forward, hopefully many, many years, and I look back, what will I want to have experienced, and how will I want to left this world, and what is the impact I will have wanted to have made. And then that gives me sort of the direction. So my kids are encompassed in that, and my family's encompassed in that community, that philanthropic, but that's sort of the overarching, I think, driver for me to like reconnect to that.
Oh my gosh, that is very much resonating with me, like a really emotional level. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing. Is there anything else that you would like to bring up in terms of like, I don't know. I thought that was really beautiful. You know what that reminds me of? I've been seeing you go on walks a lot, and I love it. And now it makes sense when you record and it's a bunch of hills. If you're over near Temecula, that totally makes sense now, because I was wondering. Isa, I was thinking about this yesterday because of, it was like 2 weeks ago that Isa started her 30-day consistency challenge, and she was like, I want to start posting more and doing like face massages and reading more and just doing more, and for me I was like, all right, well, I'll join you. And it's also because I joined because I mean a lot of people are saying like, in order to be known you have to get out there and like be consistent with your posting and stuff. So it's like, okay, yeah, let me just start doing this. But it is feeling really good. Like I feel more confident and like actually like myself a little more. And I think it's because I feel like, oh, I'm actually putting the effort into doing these things. And it feels like, I don't know, I guess a lot of different things. I don't know if the words that I'm going to choose really resonate too well with me, but I think I feel a little more worthy because I know that I'm like, I can put in work consistently, and especially like exercising. Like, it was nice when I did it. It was like when I would be in like high school and I was in different clubs and stuff. So it was cool, and I didn't realize that like it made me feel better. But now it's like a different thing because I feel like, okay, I'm not just exercising for this challenge now. It was at first, but now it's like, oh, I'm really putting focus on myself. And as I'm doing all of these things, I feel like I'm better.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, you're making promises to yourself that you're keeping too, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of like you can trust yourself. If in your mind you had a different identity where you're like, I'm not the person that's consistent, works out, you're like, well, actually, now I've been doing it for 30 days. I am that person, and I can be that person. I'm going to continue to be that person.
Yes.
So there's a lot that comes in that. It's powerful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's exactly what it was. I totally forgot. Yeah, like I think when I first started, it was like a Chris Williamson quote or something that I watched where they were saying that like, would you like someone or would you trust someone that would promise these things and would never get to it, or would do it a little bit and not really?
They're going to, and then they don't deliver on it. Yeah. And we're so quick to break the promises with ourselves and do them for other people.
Oh, that's exactly what it is. Wow.
Yeah. Well, good for you. That's so cool that you've been doing that. I've enjoyed watching your journey with that, and it's impressive. I love the little videos and the recaps to see what that looks like for your day, because you're not just saying you're doing it, which you could do and still, meet the parameters of that challenge, but it's cool to actually see you, doing your workout and doing the journaling. I love it.
Thank you. I don't always cool. That's good to hear. I don't always get feedback. So it's like, I know I'm posting it, but I don't really assume people are watching. So, thank you.
Yeah. You never know who's watching. Keep doing it. That's the hardest part, consistency, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm so glad. I feel like a lot of people start saying yes to coming on here. So it's pretty easy to get yeses. So it's pretty easy to just, okay, I'm going to have a podcast. And then they come on once a week. So if I were to have like 30 podcasts in a month, boom, that's 30 weeks that I can fish out.
yeah, it's amazing. Because I think too, for a lot of people anyway, there's a lot of mindset work that goes behind even just starting something like a podcast. You have to be really vulnerable, put yourself out there, and that's a huge commitment. And again, something that you're telling not just yourself, but also other people that, hey, I'm doing this and now I'm going to show up every week and you can expect this from me. And then you're delivering on it. So it's very cool.
I love you, Christy. You make me feel so good about myself.
No.
Final question that I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you could be a vacation, what would you be?
Oh, good question. Okay. I think like a place or a type of vacation.
A type of vacation. It could be a place.
Okay. So for me, I'm going to do a hybrid because I think the place also kind of encompasses the type of vacation for me. So for my honeymoon, after we got married, we actually went to Bali. And what I loved about it, I would go back. We've only been the one time. It was 15 years ago, and it was amazing. It was beautiful. It was serene. It was peaceful. But we broke it up into 3. So we were there, I forget how long, maybe a week and a half or something. So we spent a handful of days at a resort where we didn't leave. And it just had multiple restaurants, this huge, beautiful, all-inclusive sort of a situation, right? Then we moved to Ubud, which is like the cultural center. And that's where the rainforest is. And you have I think it was called like Monkey Kingdom or something, or the temple or Monkey Temple or something. But anyway, like for me, I like a good balance of it's good for me to just do the relaxing and the laying and take the break. But I also have like this just yearning if I'm going somewhere, I want to see it and I want to experience it. And I don't want to miss out on like the adventure side of it, of really seeing how the people there live. And I don't want to just go lay on a beach for the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to also hike and kind of get into everything. But my husband's very much like that. I want to go lay on a beach and just hand me the cocktails and I'm going to be here all day. So that's kind of our nice compromise, is we try to choose places that have a mix of both and we can sort of sandwich it. So with that particular trip, we spent a few days. We did the, little bungalow that was like in the rainforest and got into the heart of the culture, and then ended it over on like a different beach with a little villa and eating, fresh seafood that was right on the beach and all of that. So yeah, I think that would be my vacation if I were a vacation, which is really just a vacation I want to take.
Yeah, exactly. I've had a couple of people that have said that they would be skiing or snowboarding or like the beach. So
I like it. Yeah.
I haven't gotten one that's international though. So that's nice. Very cool. Yeah. Well, Christy, I always appreciate your time and I love chatting with you. I love it. You always have really good tips, and the words that you say resonate very well with me, always.
So I'm so glad to hear that. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm honored that you asked me. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you all of the best in your endeavors, and I'm always here if you have questions or want to just chat. So,
oh, thank you. What if other people have questions and want to chat with you? Where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. I have my handle right here. So it's at Christy Schnurle. There's a dot at Christy.Schnurle. So I am pretty good most of the time about answering DMs. And, but I will say if I don't, it's because it landed in that, we haven't connected yet. And it landed in that like node zone of, I don't know, they fall into there if you have to go check the spam or something. So if I haven't gotten back to you, that's why. But for all the real people, I do get back to them eventually. So usually pretty quick, especially if I know who the person is. But you can connect with me there.
Everybody connect with Christy. We love Christy. We're a Christy loving household here.
Aw, you're so sweet.
Well, thank you so much. I won't take too much. We're done. I won't take the hour of your time. You go have fun with your family and with all your endeavors, and we will be chatting soon enough.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.